I think part of the reason I'm here is probably just because I've made more mistakes in life and business than most people. I see. I work with a lot of people, and sometimes when we don't know if we don't know if we should turn left or we don't know if we should turn right, we get stuck in the middle of the road. And one of my I don't know, one of my things that I think is good, but also maybe could be bad in some things, is that I'm the guy that jumps out of the plane and builds my wings on the way down. And so I make decisions quickly. It's not always good or bad, but I think in life and business, sometimes the quicker we figure out we're on the wrong road, the quicker we can get on the right road. So
welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our goal is to inspire you to live your best audacious life ever. I want to thank thank all our listeners for tuning in and checking out the podcast and really taking time to indulge in the conversation that elevate and empower us to live a much better life. If you think of how a skilled pilot navigates through turbulent weather to reach your destination, making tough decisions in life requires courage and a clear vision. In our interview with Jason Roberts today, we delve into the importance of bold decision making to shape our destinies. Jason is a seasoned entrepreneur and a business leader who has navigated through challenges to find success. With a background in real estate and a passion for personal development, Jason brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our discussion. Really happy that he could be here. His journey from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur mirrors the themes we explore in this episode. His insights and experiences shed light on the transformative power of making bold choices and taking ownership for one's path to success. So now that we've got you all set, let's turn our conversation over to Jason Roberts. Enjoy. Hey, Jason, thank you for being here, hanging out with me on the Audacious Living Podcast, man. Thanks for doing this.
thanks for having me, brother. I'm looking forward to it.
Same, for sure. We spend lots of time on this podcast and encouraging people to live their best, audacious lives ever, right? And that's really what we want to encourage people to do. And clearly, on that road to whatever your greatness is, because I think the important thing about this to understand is that, our individual greatness is defined individually, right? And
For sure.
and not only that, we get to that greatness whenever we do at our own pace, our own scale. And sometimes, where we mess ourselves up is we kind of look to see the right or the left and see what they're doing and what guy's doing and what she's doing and where she's at. And we miss what's in front of us. And so, I think it's so important that we're mindful of that. You spend a lot of time, helping people understand sort of that success formula and how to get there and create the winning habits that get you on this pathway of good stuff. And that's why it makes so much sense to have you on the podcast. So maybe as a starting point, we'll get you to talk about the work that you do and how you landed where you did.
Sure, man. I love it. You want me to start out? You want me to kind of background a little bit? All right.
Yeah. Set us up here.
I think part of the reason I'm here is probably just because I've made more mistakes in life and business than most people. I see. I work with a lot of people, and sometimes when we don't know if we should turn left or we don't know if we should turn right, we get stuck in the middle of the road. And one of my things that I think is good, but also maybe could be bad in some things, is that I'm the guy that jumps out of the plane and builds my wings on the way down. And so I make decisions quickly. It's not always good or bad, but I think in life and business, sometimes the quicker we figure out we're on the wrong road, the quicker we can get on the right road. So, I opened a business when I was young. I was 21 years old. When I graduated, I grew up in a small farm town in Troy, Missouri. My dad bailed on me and my brothers and my mom when I was 12. So, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any people that I looked up to when I was a kid. But I think one of the biggest things that influenced me at a young age was that I saw my mom struggle. And, she was a beautiful woman. She's a nurse. And she sacrificed everything for me and my two brothers so that we could have some sort of normal life. And I saw her sacrifice. I saw her never buy herself anything. I saw her never do anything for herself so that we could have, a somewhat normal life. And it bothered me, man. It bothered me, even at a young age to see like she's sacrificing everything for me, for me and my brothers. And so
Yep.
from a young age, I did what I could to try to figure out, how can I bring some money in? How can I take some of that burden off of her? How can I help? How can I, try to be a leader to my brothers? And, and so my first job when I turned 18, my mom, when I was 18, she said, you either need to go to college or you need to get a full-time job, one of the two, but you ain't staying here. And so, so I did both.
You gotta love that tough love, right? That tough
That's
love.
right, man. That's what I needed, man. My dad was a disciplinarian, and when he was around, we listened. But when he left, it was my mom did the best she could, but she had 3 boys that didn't listen worth a crap. So, she had to she had to put some parameters in place because it was the Wild West for a minute. But we we did what we thought was right, and did the right things. But my first job I ever got was at a collection agency, and I don't know if you've ever done that or if anybody knows ever done that. It's not the most pleasant environment. I was making 200 to 300 outbound phone calls a day, and I'm calling people that are 6 months delinquent on their Discover card or their Citibank card or whatever. And you can imagine that, the receiver of that phone call isn't always in the best place. And sometimes when we're not in the best place, we don't behave accordingly. And so it was tough, man, but I made $70,000 my first year at 18 years old as a bill collector. And all my buddies are, at Mizzou, they're trying to get a 4-year degree, and they're hoping that when they graduate that they're making, they hope when they graduate, they're going to get a job that pays half of what I'm already making. And so, as an 18-year-old kid without any guidance, my thought was like 70 grand a year right now, or go to school for 4 years and get half of that. And so I stayed there, man, but I knew, every day I walked into that place, it was an ocean of cubicles, and it was a blessing. But at the same time, I saw people that were 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old in these cubes. And I thought, I don't know why God put me here, but it's not for this, there's got to be something more. And so that's what led to the first business that I opened. I was 21. I opened a mortgage company. I had no idea what I was doing. We screwed everything up. We made every mistake that you could possibly make. But we worked hard, man. A lot of hard work, a lot of luck probably at the same time. And, we built that company up. We built it to about 100 employees. We were the #1 rural housing lender in the state of Missouri, doing about $20 million a year in annual revenue. And as a kid, most of my employees were old enough to be my parents. And, I just worked hard. I was chained to that business, man. I was there at 5:30 in the morning and left at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, most nights. I really subscribe to that. If you work really, really hard right now, then someday you could have this great life story. And, I'm all for working hard, man, but there has to be a balance in that. There has to be, I sacrificed everything that really mattered to me. I messed up relationships. I didn't show up for my mom's birthday and Christmas and holidays because I was working. And if you'd asked me why I was doing it, it was so I could take care of them and give them, life experiences and that kind of thing. But I was chained to that, man.
So when did you wake up and realize the change had to be made?
2000, let's say 2010. So 2007 hit. I don't know if you remember that, but 2007 was, the collapse of the U.S. Economy for sure, and many other countries. And, we went from bringing in millions of dollars of revenue to losing 100 grand a month, and losing at that pace for about 2.5 years until, I just watched on a daily basis everything that I had worked for getting stripped away from me. I lost my own house to foreclosure, cars repossessed, Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I went from being a multimillionaire to being homeless in a 2.5-year period of time. And it was in that transition. It was in that pain. It was in that cycle of life that I realized, like, man, I just spent 10 years of my life going down this path, and in a quick amount of time, because it's something that was really beyond my control. It got stripped away. And I had a mentor that came in at the time, and he said, Jason, you think you're really cool. He's kind of being an ass, man. He's getting in my business. He said, you think you're really cool because you're good at business and what you touch turns to gold and all this. He's like, but I know all kinds of people like you, man. I know all kinds of people that work 15 hours a day and are unfulfilled, that do well financially. But like, how do you define success? You kind of started out the conversation with that. Like, I think it's different for everybody, but I never identified success as being chained to my business. I mean, the whole reason we start a business is so we can have freedom. And I had the opposite of freedom. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are kind of in that same boat. And he said, what would be really cool, Jason, is if you could change more lives, if you could impact more people, if you could build your businesses even bigger in 3 or 4 hours a day instead of 15 hours a day. Now that would be impressive.
Right.
That was the first time, man, that ever like entered my world, that I had ever thought that way. And that was one of the best pieces of business advice I ever got in my life, man. And every business that I've built since that point, I've built it with, keeping the things that matter most planned first, and then filling in the gaps with the business, as opposed to like what I did before and what most people do. And that is work first, and whatever's left, we try to live a little bit of life.
There's always that sometimes a bit of a conundrum, like you're caught in, I want to do this, but if I don't, this is not going to happen. But if I keep doing this, this is not going to be beneficial to me because I'm costing. And you think of the relationships and even our health as a factor as well in all this too. That things have, it can have severe impacts on us, and it's about very much finding that line. That line's going to be different for everyone.
100%.
But what's kind of the process and at least getting somewhere close to it?
Man, I'll tell you the process this guy took me through. And like I said, it was one of the most life-changing things that he ever did. And I think this will resonate with everybody that's listening to a certain degree. So he sits down with me and he says, so Jason, I want to pretend that you have all the money in the world. Finances are never an issue. You don't have to worry about money ever again. You wake up tomorrow morning, you can do whatever you want. What would life look like? And my instant response was, well, I guess I'd start another business. And he's like, no, man, you don't have to work anymore. You don't have to do that. What would you do if you didn't have to start another business? And I immediately say, well, I guess I would help somebody else with their business. And my identity, man, was that. I didn't know that it was, but that's what it was.
Right.
And he said, no, dude, like, what would you do for fun? How about that? Let's answer that question. And as a 30-year-old man, this is no joke. I mean, I look him right. I'm like deer in the headlights. I couldn't answer the question. And then I could feel like the sadness of not being able to answer the question. Like, I consider myself a fun guy. I'm a goofball. I like to have fun. You know what I mean? I like to be around people that laugh and smile and are happy. And here I am. I can't answer what I would do for fun. And he says, well, don't you have a motorcycle? And I said, yeah. And he said, when's the last time you rode it? And I said, I don't know. The tags are 3 years expired. So probably 3 years ago. And he's like, all right. Then on Monday, he's doing this calendar exercise. And he's like, on Monday and Friday from 10 to noon, you're going to go ride your motorcycle. And I'm like, okay, but I'm instantly feeling anxiety because 10 to 2 is work hours. You know what I mean? And then he said, didn't you say you wanted to be a pilot? And I said, yeah, I always wanted to fly a helicopter. And he's like, all right, on Wednesdays from 12 to 2, you're going to go fly a helicopter. And he starts putting all this, take helicopter lessons. He starts putting all this life stuff in. But instead of like feeling freedom and excitement from that, oddly, I mean, I start getting more stressed out, more nervous, more because I'm like, well, yeah. And we go through this whole week exercise, and basically it was like creating a vision for your own life. What do you want your life to look like?
Yes.
And what I realized is that most people spend more time planning a vacation than they ever do their life, and then we wonder why we feel unfulfilled or that we don't have the things that we want. And it's, I don't mean to sound woo-woo, but I mean, at the end of the day, like what we don't plan for, we don't get. And that process of putting life first changed my life. And it also was one of the biggest single impacts that took me from being a solopreneur to an entrepreneur, because when you've got 4 hours a day, but you still have a passion and a drive to grow, you make different decisions than when you have 15 hours a day to do it. And it was having that, being forced to figure out the answer in 3 or 4 hours as opposed to 15. It causes you to be a better leader. It causes you to be a better delegator. It causes you to grow in different ways. But people always say, well, once I get to this place, then I'll live life. And it's like, you know what I mean? And then it's like, but what if you did that now? What if you decided to do it right now? It's not something that you arrive at. It's a decision that you make, and you can make that decision today, or you can wait 5 years and make it in 5 years. I would encourage you to make it today.
I think it makes sense to make it today. I mean, why the heck not? Like, you're here, and
that's right.
And the reality is, and I think we all know this, maybe we take it for granted, but tomorrow isn't promised. We have no idea what will happen tomorrow.
Exactly right.
Sure, we can think and you may be right, but Who knows, right? So
Right.
if there's an opportunity to step forward and be bold and be audacious today, then do it. That's kind of, what
That's
I
right.
would say. Um, I know you talked earlier about making mistakes and learning from them. I'm wondering, maybe is there the top 1, 2, 3, or 10 that come to mind that you say, yeah, these were some big ones, and this is what I took from it.
One of the biggest, let me first say that while
And
I
I was
was
just joking
going,
about 10, by the way. Don't get
yeah,
me.
no, I mean, we could do like 27 episodes on all the mistakes, bro. I mean, that's the thing about life and business, man. You can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to make
Yeah,
mistakes, because that's where we learn. It's not always fun while we're going through it, and that's what I was going to say.
sure.
That was 2.5 years that we were losing money on a daily, monthly basis, and I could
Mhm.
not outwork it. I mean, I could not. I couldn't stop it no matter how hard I worked. And I'm not like I'm an optimistic. I wake up every day and I'm grateful and I'm happy but like when you get kicked in the head every single day for 2 years straight, I can't be honest and say that I woke up in a great, in a good spirit, because it was like
Sure.
I wanted to give up. And I felt like I'm looking up at the sky saying, why?
Why?
What
Yeah.
I did everything right. Why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening? And I'm not a victim mindset person. I mean, I've conditioned myself that everything is the way that it is in my life because of me. And
Yes. Yeah.
when you take 100% ownership, you're able to change it. And until you take 100%
Yes.
ownership, you can't. When you're pointing to outside circumstances or others or anything else.
Jason, I can't say enough about that point. Honestly, sorry to cut you, but that is so true. When we
Oh,
talk about the significance of ownership, that's that. Literally, what you're doing is you're taking a steering wheel and you're saying, "Look, I'm taking this where it's going, and if I hit a pothole, because
that's
I
right.
was not drove in that pothole, not
That's right.
because the world is trying to knock me down and throwing potholes my way. I went down that path, and
That's
that
right.
and you accept it."
100%. 100%. And that's kind of what I had to do is grab the steering wheel and say, like, okay, fine. Like, outside circumstances may have caused this, but it's up to you to fix it, man. Like, you got to wake up and do something different. And one of the biggest lessons I learned in that was that in and of itself was just taking 100% ownership, 100% accountability.
Mm,
Um, but it was also that, like, sometimes when we're in the middle of the mess, when we're in the middle of playing, we can't see the lesson until we get to the other side. And I can tell you that some of my best lessons ever have come from the most painful things that I didn't understand at the time why I was going through it. Like that saying that life happens for us, not to us. If you're viewing it like it's happening to you, then you can't see the beauty and the pain and what's happening. And it was happening for me, and there was so much good that came. Like, I'm telling you right now, if I didn't get wiped out and lose everything in 2010, from what happened in 07, I would still be grinding 70, 80 hours a week in that business. And I'd still be telling people that I loved it. And I'd still be saying that, I'm doing this so that someday I can have this. Like, I can almost guarantee that had I not been derailed that derailment, that pain, that being wiped out gave me my life, I don't even say give me my life back. It gave me the opportunity to create the life that I want, that I deserve, that I should have. And had it not happened, had that mentor not came through and said, what if you could accomplish in 3 hours a day, and grow more in 3 hours a day than 15 hours a day, I'd still be living that. And I've watched thousands of people's lives change, since kind of understanding that
sure.
message. And there's no greater gift than, giving somebody life back, or participating in them
Process,
getting
yeah.
life back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, that's a big one, and the probably one of the most empowering things you can do for someone is letting them see their own potential and what
that's
they're
right.
capable of doing.
100%.
You've just created a world changer when you've done that, right? And
Exactly right.
so I think that's a big one. Um, again, the mistakes and lessons and things of that nature. But I so love the point you made around not being able to see the benefits and the beauty till you got to the other side, right?
Yeah,
And I,
yeah,
and I oftentimes use the analogy of a boulder, right? We're going down this pathway, there's a big boulder in our way, and we need to find a way to get up, over, around, or through. However, whatever you need to do to get the job done, you do
right.
that. Because on the other side is where our greatness lies. Like the
That's right.
thing that we were waiting, that we were persevering for, that's there waiting for us. And so when you talk about that, that's what it brings me to, because there is greatness for us. We just got to believe that it's there. And if we believe that it's there, now we're talking.
That's right. You nailed it.
Is there sort of a typical kind of entrepreneur that you work with, or who ideally is kind of where you sort of make the biggest impact?
I guess the area I probably make the biggest impact was where the biggest impact happened to me, and that was going from solopreneur to entrepreneur. And I say that meaning that solopreneur to entrepreneur change could mean that you're a one-man band and you're trying to grow, but you're stuck, and you've been in business 5 years but it's still you and maybe one other person, and you're having trouble scaling, man. But it can also be the guy who's doing $10 million a year that has 100 employees, that's still an absolute slave to his business. You know what I mean? Like you're still I had 100 employees, but I was there at 5:30 in the morning, left at midnight. I didn't empower my people. I didn't delegate to them. I didn't recognize their talent, and so I think a lot of people resonate with that. But that journey that I went through was one of the biggest blessings. And so that's one of my favorite things to do. I had a guy who was a real estate developer in Arizona, and he came to me, flew to St. Louis. He spent a week at my office. And when he first got there, I'm asking him some business. I'm trying to understand where he's at, where he's trying to go, so that I can help build the map to help him get there. And I could tell, like, I'm looking at myself in 30 years, if you know what I mean. I my old self, like this guy never got the message. And so he's still spending all his time. And so I start asking him personal questions, and I can see him kind of getting uncomfortable. Like, I just paid you a lot of money to come fix my business. Why are you asking me about my family? And so I said, but tell me about your family. Tell me about what that looks like. Tell me about, I want to understand your why. Like you don't just want money for the sake of money. What's your why? And he said, well, it's my family. And I said, well, tell me about them. And he said, well, one of the things I'm most proud of is that my daughter's an Olympic swimmer. Okay. Or just qualified for the Olympic team. And I said, wow, man, that's awesome. I said, you must have no greater joy in the world than going and watching her compete and this. And I could see that something didn't click with that when I said it. And I go, what? And he said, well, I've never actually seen her practice, or I haven't seen her practice in years, or something like that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, to have a trainer every day and get your child to be able to compete at an Olympic level, that takes a lot of money. And so, I don't get to see her compete. My wife takes her, but I don't really get to see that because I'm working. And so I start diving into this, and then, then he tells me that he's him and his wife live in one of their extra bedrooms in the house because they've converted their master bedroom into their office. And then I say, when's the last time you took your wife on a date? And he says, I don't remember. It's probably been a couple years. And I'm like, oh my God, this is
really longer than that, for the record.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That was the knee-jerk response. If we asked his wife, I think we'd probably get a different number. And so, man, instead of spending that whole week on how to fix his business, we spent most of that week fixing him. And he wasn't broken. I don't mean to imply that there's something wrong with him, but like, that isn't what the question that I asked him was, what would your daughter want? Like, you're doing all this for them, and he's a good man. This guy has more character and more good than most people that I come across. He's a good man. And in his mind, he was doing all this for them. But I said, did you ever stop and ask them what they wanted? Do you think that if you had 2 Mercedes in the garage instead of 4, but you went on date night with your wife, do you think she'd be happier or less happy? And he says, well, she'd be happier for sure. And I said, do you think your daughter, if she, whatever, what do you think she wants more than anything? And he said, she wants my time. She just wants me to be present. And I said, so then are you doing all these things for your, I know nobly you are, but like, are you doing it for your family if what your family wants most is you? And you know what I mean? And is there maybe a way that both can happen? Is there a possibility that you could tweak some things and still be present for your loved ones? And so we go through this whole entire process, and the guy calls me about a month later during the day, and he's just got this different voice about him. He's happy, and he's normally super serious. And I said, Dwayne, what's going on, man? Where are you at? And he goes, Jason, I just had to call you. We just picked up, we packed up. I took my whole family on vacation for the first time ever. We're sitting at this water park. My wife and daughter are going down I mean, it was like, I get the chills right now on my arm. Like from just thinking about that moment of, you know what I mean? Like he found his purpose. Like he for the first time in 10, 15 years, everything that he had been doing now it like clicked, you know what I mean? And I think that understanding of, I love work ethic, I love business, I love all that stuff, but like,
I would say he refound his purpose.
That's right.
Because he had his purpose before. That's why he was working so hard.
You're exactly right.
During that process, he lost it, right? And you said he's a good man, trying to provide. His daughter's an Olympic swimmer. He's got all these things happening. He lost it because he was so bogged down in, and you helped him to refine what was up. And really, it was always there right in front of him. He would just couldn't see it.
That's right. And that's, man, we're all there, right? I mean, that was me for 10 years. Like we all experience it. Can't see the forest through the trees, and we're so in the middle of our own stuff, you know?
Yep. And I also do like the fact that there's a direct connection between what happens in our business world and our personal lives. I mean, far too often we think they're two distinct things. Like over here, we don't cut ourselves and become one person. We are the same person, right?
That's right.
When we're at work, we think about personal stuff sometimes. And when we're in our personal lives, we're thinking about work sometimes. We're the same person, right? So to pretend like, you know, you're someone different, or when the clock strikes a certain time, you go, it's the same person.
That's right. Same person.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk about some of these, I guess, reasons for success, formulas for success, ways people find, like you got one or two or three things, or 10, I'm back to 10 again. No, one or two or three things that you can, we can leave with our listeners as good, maybe habits to form.
Yeah. So I mean, something immediately comes to mind, and I've been a studier. One thing I did that was smart at a young age that I just didn't probably know that was smart is and I'm not like this. I love to read, but I read a lot of autobiographies because I had a mentor early on that was like, model success. Find someone that's already achieving the result that you're trying to achieve, whatever, in your marriage, in your health, and find somebody that's already achieving it consistently in their life and model what they do. And that was some of the best business advice I ever got too, is like, quit trying to recreate the wheel. Quit trying to start from nothing. Find somebody that's getting the result that you're trying to get. I mean, that's how we grew the mortgage company so fast. Is within a couple months of opening, I went to this event, and the first guy to ever do $1 billion a year in home loans. His name is Greg Frost for Albuquerque, New Mexico. I hired him to mentor me. I had not a clue what we were doing, but this guy had been in that space for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like he knew it in his sleep. And it's kind of like, when you first try to ride a bike or fly a plane, like it's a mess. You know what I mean? Like you're crashing, you don't know what you're doing. But after you do it 1,000 times or 5,000 times, I mean, you're driving down the highway, talking on your cell phone, eating a cheeseburger, driving with your knee. You know what I mean? Like that would have been impossible when you started. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that.
No, it's a great illustration. That's all.
None of us do that, right? But what I found,
you're not eat a cheeseburger and drive. Come on.
Yeah, well, we don't do that. One thing that I found that everybody that I ever looked at, researched, whatever, had in common, the top 1% of 1% of income earners in the world, the people that really have stuff figured out, is they had this innate ability to manage their own state, to control their own state. And by state, I mean like the state in which you show up in. And like, we all have things that happen to us throughout the day that, you get cut off in traffic, it changes your state. Maybe you go from happy to pissed off, or happy to mad, or, or the IRS sends a tax bill for 50 grand that you weren't expecting, and it changes your state, or maybe like I would ask yourself the question right now, if you were to rate like a peak state being at a 10, think about the time where you felt invisible. Think about a time in your life where you accomplished something that you felt like, you were invincible, that you could accomplish anything. And then think about a time where you felt defeated and you wanted to give up and quit. 1, give up and quit being a 1, 10 being you can accomplish anything, you're invincible. What state, what range do you operate in? And what I have found, even from some top producers, is that, most people, if they're lucky, are operating at a 5 or 6 on average most of the time. And if we can just shift that a little bit, when I'm working with high level business owners, it's almost never a problem in the business. It's almost always a problem in their state. Something happens that knocks them out of their state,
Right.
and they start showing up at a 6 instead of an 8, and they're wondering why they're thinking something happened in the business, when in reality it's that.
Them.
And so I would say 3 things that control your state. One is what you focus on. So think about what are you focusing on most during your day? Number 2 is the meaning that you give it. And number 3 is the action that you take. And so if I can, I want to just give a real quick example of that. I watched this interview that Oprah Winfrey did with these 2 twin brothers. And the interview starts out, she's in prison, right? She's going into this prison. They're beeping the doors in. She's going through all the security. She's got police around her. And she sits down in this room, kind of like you see in the movies, where this guy's in the room, he's shackled up, sitting on the little podium chair, and she's talking to him, asking questions. You have no idea what it's about. And then finally she gets this question. She says, if there was one reason you've been in prison your entire life, you've been in and out of jail for 20 plus years, you have no family, there's really nothing good going on. If there was one thing that you would say caused that, what would it be? And he goes, I know exactly what it is. When I grew up as a kid, my dad was emotionally and physically abusive. He beat the crap out of me, my brother. He beat my mom. I watched violence. He was an alcoholic. I saw all these terrible things happen. I'm a product of my environment. No wonder. And as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, no wonder. I mean, dude had a rough life. I mean, you know what I mean? Like a really rough life. I understand why his map of the world looks the way that it does.
Right.
The interview then shifts, and Oprah's in this SUV going up this long, twisty driveway, and you can see this mansion get closer. You know what I mean? Like she's going up, she goes through the gates. You can see this mansion get closer. She goes inside, and it looks like the same guy, but it's not the same guy. It's his twin brother. And so she sits down with him and his wife and his 3 kids, and she's interviewing him. And she says, if there was one reason why you're here in this beautiful mansion with this beautiful family and all these things, if there was one thing in life that you think caused you to go down this path, what would it be? And he says, I can tell you exactly what it is. And he answered exactly the same as the brother in prison. He said, my dad was an alcoholic. He beat the crap out of me and my brothers. He hit my mom. I watched it happen. I was around violence. And I said, not going to happen. I'm going to change it. And so when I talk about, those 3 things that control your state, what are you focusing on? What is the meaning that you give it? And what is the action you take? They were both focusing on the pain, but one of them gave it one meaning and the other one gave it a drastically different meaning, but they experienced the exact same thing. And so I would encourage everybody to think about what's something in your life that you gave a meaning to that you could possibly shift that meaning and start to get a different result in life, because we get to choose the meaning that we give it. And some people have some people have like conflict against that. I do too sometimes. Like when somebody cuts you off in traffic and you want to be mad, you could choose to give it the meaning of mad, or you could choose to give it the meaning of maybe their mom just got rushed to the emergency room to the hospital and that person's racing to the hospital. Are you mad now? Because I wouldn't be, I would have gotten out of the way for them to help. But what is the meaning that we're giving different things in our life, and then what action are we taking because of it? And I think that's a really good thing to think about in all aspects of life.
It's fantastic, and I think there's also a good tie-in to the ownership piece that we talked off earlier.
That's right.
It's exactly what it is. You can see a situation, and it's what you choose, the true choice that you make, and how you want to perceive it, and then what kind of impact you want it to have your life, as you articulated, in that story. It's awesome. Jason, this is really awesome, man. I love what you're doing. I love how you're helping people. Again, when we talk about what we want to do on this podcast, it's to help individuals live their best audacious lives. And that's exactly what you're promoting and showing and demonstrating, not only through your work with individuals, but what you're doing for yourself. And that also is a blueprint, if you will, because, I think we're always looking for that next person, that success, right? And next thing is, how did they get that? How did Jason do that? Right.
Yep.
And what can I take from that for myself to get me at that next level?
100%.
And so I think I think you're doing a fantastic job. For listeners that wanted to sort of connect with you or learn more about your work or just, hang with you, man, what can they do?
Well, first thing I would tell you to do, and I didn't say this to you, so I hope this is okay, but we have a 16-week training that is expensive, that we bring CEOs and business owners and just people of all kinds through. Lucy and I took that 16-week training. We condensed it down into like 3 hours. And
You're going to have to tell people who Lucy is. Right?
Yeah. So I apologize. Yeah. Lucy's my girlfriend. Audley interviewed her about a month ago. She's on the same mission to change lives as me. And so we have a 16-week training.
She's a lovely person, by the way. I want to say, I want to put that on record. Lucy's a lovely individual.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I've never met anybody in my life that sees the good in every single thing that comes across, and the effect that has on the people around her, me being one of them, is priceless.
Awesome.
But I want to give that away. So we condensed it down to 3 hours. It's the whole thing of like how to shift your identity of who you are. Like, everybody has that one thing in their life, or 2 or 3 things that they've been wanting to change. And they've been saying for 3 years, I'm going to start going to the gym. And then today comes and it's one more day that we don't go to the gym, or I'm going to open that business, or I'm going to be a better spouse, or whatever it is. We've all got those things that we have the tools, right? But we're not getting the result. And so this training is about how to take you from where you're at to where you want to be. And we worked tirelessly on it. If there's something in your life right now that you need a positive change. So I want to give that to your audience for free. No cost, no nothing.
Thank you.
Not trying to sell you anything or anything else. It's a gift. If you go to www.ultimatesuccessblueprint.com, and all you have to do is put your contact information in, and there's a coupon code. If you put in Audley, it's completely free. So no cost to you. It bypasses. We charge $1,000 for it on our website. You can download that for free. I would encourage everybody to start there. If I can help you in any way, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Coach Jason Roberts on both of those. And man, anything I can do to help, anything that I can do to positively inspire, that's what I'm here to do.
Sure. No, Mr. Peak Performance over here, making things happen for people. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. I love the mission. I love the work, and the results speak for themselves. Thanks for taking the time, man. This is good.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Back we are here on the podcast, and in our conversation with Jason, we learned the true success comes from not just hard work, but from smart decisions. By learning from mistakes, adapting, and staying true to your purpose, you can overcome obstacles and create a life that aligns with your values and ambitions. If you're interested in connecting directly with Jason and explore more of his offerings, I certainly encourage you to check out his contact details in the show notes. Take that next step towards living your audacious life by seeking guidance from a seasoned mentor like Jason, and such a cool guy for sure. As we come to the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, I encourage you to follow, and share this with your friends and family if you haven't already done so. This, of course, is what supports us and helps us reach even more individuals, and how we grow this podcast and inspire others to embrace audacious living. Until next time, remember to stay bold and audacious and keep striving for greatness. Be audacious, folks.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.